This is an old school heirloom flower that Andrea has found to be one of her favorites in the last couple years. It's called Snow on the Mountain. We start from seed, we save these seeds, and this is what we have to work with this season. We have multiple iterations of it coming, but we started in the greenhouse as a plug in March. It's probably got a 120-day season to bloom. Not a lot of people see it or have it anymore, but a lot of our grandmothers would know about it. We plant it in a thick stand like it is now, and there'll be a few weeds pop up, but as long as it gets a good foothold, maintenance is minimal. Okay, now let's talk about Swan Island dahlias. Impact, beauty, and ease. We can grow these dahlias. This one is a really good looking one, and they are not hardy for this area, so there's a bunch of work to be done. Hardy means it can live here throughout the winter. Dahlias need dug every fall. They either need to be dug up, or we do this, a 10-inch layer of straw with cardboard and tarps. The plant would be gone, and then we protect the roots in the ground, and we try to let them make it through the winter. If we can stay above 10 degrees throughout the winter, the dahlia tubers will live in the ground. Otherwise, we have to dig them up and then store them inside for the winter and then bring them back out in the spring. So there's an extensive amount of labor there. But other than that, dahlias are hands off. There's no fertilizer, and they're beautiful. This is straw flower. Straw flower is another heirloom that we've found in the last 3 or 4 years. Straw flower can be used as a dried flower. We save every seed. That was at the initial bud. This is towards the middle, beautiful stage, and this is the end. Straw flower is easy to grow. Save your own seed and regrow your own every year. They give us a really long stem to work with in the cut flower arrangements. They are about a 70-day from seed to bloom. They're almost, again, they're hands off. They handle themselves. There's very little pest pressure. A lot of people love them as a dried flower. And it's got that really neat paper feel. They're really tough, and this color doesn't go away. And there's probably 5 different. You've got a deep red, you've got this magenta-ish, and there's a blush that I don't have down here in this stand. There's a blush white, and then an off-white, and a silver maybe. There's probably 5 or 6 different types of straw flowers right now. We'll jump right on over to the old school zinnia. Awesome, easy cut flower, because wherever we cut, say we cut this guy and he's 12 or 14 inches long, it doesn't die. The plant just sends out more shoots, and they're almost always a really good stem length for making our cut flower arrangements. Here we're back into another type of zinnia. Cut flower wise, we've got just even this is a very neat texture to have in your arrangements. The leaves look beautiful. They resist bug pressure for the most part as well, and very easy to grow. Start them in the high tunnel in March. These guys here have been blooming since probably 1st of July. I'd say we had them for the July 8th Preston County Farm Crawl. More zinnias. You've got some really beautiful colors in the way they fade. This pink fade into white. They just really help liven up her arrangements. This is a beautiful flower this year that she just called a double click Cosmo. Cosmo is another old school, our grandmothers all had them and loved them, but this is a different type. This would be a single click, I would say. This is a double click, and we can see the difference in the double set of petals, this inner set of petals, and it gives a lot more volume to it. And they have an extremely long vase life. This green is excellent for adding some volume to your cut flowers and a little bit of backdrop in her arrangements. These are awesome. This is this year's big new thing, and they've been blooming since July 8th, probably, maybe even July 4th. These are called Irish Eyes. They're easy. This is a perennial. This entire row out through here is all different types of Rudbeckia is the parent plant. These are all variations of a black-eyed Susan, which is what most people know. They have an extremely long stem. The stem length lets us make an arrangement of any height without any real challenges. That's a big deal. You can have a beautiful flower, but if it's only got a stem that long, it can't go with another arrangement. Now this starts it's called tiger eye, and they're fringing out, they're running their course. If I cut all these blooms down, I think I'll get a fall, what do they call a fall run? But these have been a real solid backdrop, and just by themselves they make a beautiful bouquet. Again, hardy throughout West Virginia and the zone we're in, which is like a 6A, 6B. We don't have to mess with these again, and these are going to give us solid blooms for the next 20 seasons without very little work. These are called Toto. They're obviously way shorter than the rest. They have their own little character, and they still have a pretty good stem length. You know, you're still talking 8, 9, 10 inches, giving us some room to work with them. They've definitely worked out in a lot of smaller bouquets for Andrea this season. Now we'll move up to the Lisianthus, which we're coming to. Really pretty flower. Some people love them like that, fully open. I like them. This tightness here has a rose look. It's not anywhere near as much work as a rose. It's not as susceptible to disease as roses. These are an annual, however, so they're gonna have to be planted every season, and they're hard to get started. They have, though, they can be used just like that in an arrangement. You know, that's its own character too, even though it hasn't opened into the purple. That green and you know, 15 of those throughout a 12-inch diameter arrangement is really pretty. Pincushion flower, another annual, really pretty though. That's a very good example of our white pincushion. Snapdragons have about run their course for the season. There'll be a second flush coming. These are an absolute beauty, give a bunch of color to the arrangements and a bunch of mass. They develop a seed pod, but these are, of course, are an annual. They are a very tough annual. These will live through the first 2 frosts this fall and not die. That is a flamingo, was the name, and it's the type of snapdragon is called Potomac. The color is a flamingo. And this is what one looks like before it starts to open. So almost done, just getting started. Super cool color, really long vase life, and these guys, they really can make an impact. Fall to decorate Halloween style. These are different types of Indian corn, which is a really beautiful colored ear of Indian corn. We space them out, we put buckwheat in the middle, and they kind of lets the ground rest. None of these draw a bunch of nutrients. These are not a nutrient intense thing. So if I don't have anything else going on for this particular row, I'll fill in mid-June with this kind of, this is like my go-to to get greenery growing in the dirt. These are called Magnus, and it's a coneflower. As you can see, these are going on 4 feet tall, 4.5 feet tall. We do not have to do any work to these as far as they're perennial. They'll come back every year. The petals go out in this cone. This is where they get the cone name. We'll show this guy, for example. He's on his way out, right? You can pluck these petals, and if you're looking for a really firework looking texture in your arrangement, that just by itself, 10 stems of that with you get the petal all the way gone, beautiful. Magnus is kind of implying the size. Not all coneflowers get this big by any stretch, but these are doing really well here. Our bees love them, which our bees live in 2 beehives back up around the hill. We'll cover that someday. Just like any of these things stand alone, a bundle of coneflowers has its own thing going on. We can use them from this, the beginning, when they're first starting to come out. This, it's its own little thing all in itself. And then all the way to this when it's done, and then anything in the middle. The plan is to finish this row eventually. This row will be all coneflower. We use a sunflower here in this patch that is called ProCut. It's a branded sunflower that comes from Johnny's Seeds in Maine. This plant puts all of its juice into its main beautiful flower, and there's no stems to cut for us people that are cut flower people. I've cut these heads off in an attempt to get them to shoot one more shoot this season. They came early for the Preston County Farm Crawl that we do on July 8th. This is what I'm talking about. This is beautiful. That's really, really neat stuff. But as you can see, it's got branches and blooms. So we focused, our energy has been in all these blooms instead of just this one. And when I'm making, or Andrea's making a bouquet, we've got time in getting rid of these guys. So Pro Cut works for us and would work to supply florists, which is one of our goals. And we'll be looking for the white knights. These sunflowers, if you watch this, which someday we'll do a time lapse, these heads, sun rises in the east and the heads point this way. And by the time the sun sets in the west, these heads, see how this whole looks like satellite dishes out through here? Predominantly all these heads will be turned and pointing this way. Oh, sorry, I have a finger in front of the camera. This way by the end of the day. Someday I'll show you guys that. This is a Pro Cut White Knight starting to come out. So we see eventually he's going to look like this guy, and I'm going to turn him gently so Bumble doesn't get startled there. But the bees love them. That's a beautiful flower. And this is a decent size also for arrangements. You get to this big and you're starting to get something that's harder to work with, unless that's what you want. But obviously, yeah, we got the bees that love them. There's a White Knight coming out, really pretty. Here's another really pretty White Knight. That's what I'm talking about. There's no damage done to anything. We would cut that today and you would have it for almost probably 15 days in a vase, no problem. My favorite flower in here right now. I'm starting to get really big into the Dahlias, which we talked about earlier. What's your favorite? What out of this that we've talked about do you want to know more about? Leave a comment below.